Hey, what's going on, family? I'm back. I actually started this topic not too long ago, but I was told that I wasn't being seen or heard, so I have to do this basically over again. Sorry about that, but as you see, the topic is survival steps and street safety tips for sisters who do not have the support of a man. And do a small introduction to this topic is I grew up single mother, and besides that, I've just been around a lot of women in my life who have not had the support of a man, and so that's why this video is being made. Is I like to present practical information that people are able to use right there at their fingertips. If other women who are married, you can find use in this, by all means, do so. This is just dedicated primarily towards sisters who do not have the support of a man. And so what we're talking about is tips, steps, characteristics, and things like that that will increase the likelihood of survival. For single women particularly, or women without support, it could be a very fearful journey in life, especially if you have children, as far as how to protect when you hear about so much stuff that is going on, in the world. And so I think step one is being able to have a control over your fear. If you are one who needs to be able to control over your fear, is to control fear. You do not want your fear to control you, because when your fear controls you, you are not allowed to think, rationalize, strategize, and do the things that are necessary that will increase your chances of being able to be successful at preventing an onslaught, from someone else. So fear has to be something that is controlled, and there's nothing wrong with being in fear. All human beings experience fears or have a fear, whether it's female or male. We all have fears. Being super vigilant is key as a woman. Being able to know what's around you, regardless of where you're at, especially for, my sisters who have to catch the bus. You gotta walk the cars at night or just walk around, period, because things can happen in the daylight, but being vigilant about what is taking place around you, people, watching sometimes the activity of people, and not necessarily being nosy and not even being paranoid, but just being highly observant. There's a lot of situations a lot of people could have prevented themselves from had they been paying more attention to their environment and their surroundings. And this is not to blame victims. What this is doing is giving us the accountability to be able to protect ourselves, because some of us do not have, or some sisters do not have, the line of protection that they should have in their life. So being super vigilant is something that is, it could take time if a sister doesn't necessarily possess it, but it can be something that is gained, and it's a lot to learn from it on this journey. Being social with boundaries. I think being a woman and being social with boundaries, especially when you have to encounter strangers a lot, there are tools that you can go about using, for your leverage. Sometimes you might have sisters who might talk too much, perhaps. You have to be careful with who you are talkative with. If you are a type of person that laughs a lot, you have to be very mindful about who, if you don't really know a man, I would never suggest, especially a man, it could be women too, but especially a man, if you're not too familiar with them, whereas if you haven't got an understanding of their background, who they are, trial and error, and things like that, I wouldn't agree with being too talkative with a man, because the thing is, it's not about what your intentions are, it's about what people's perceptions are of you. And people operate and function based off of perception, not reality within itself. It's about what they perceive as reality. And that's what's strong about the human mind, is because human beings have a tendency to move off of the things that we perceive a certain way. So if we perceive something that's a threat, that's not actually a threat, you know, whether it's a threat or not is not the deal breaker. It's about what do you perceive it as. So when we are behaving, and sisters, when you're behaving, it is more so about, and how you doing, Mansell Freeman, thank you for watching. It's never about what your intentions are. It's about the perceptions of others, you know. And sometimes when people see people that are very talkative or a lot of laughter, people can perceive it as a weakness. They could perceive it as a sign of naivety. So we want to be able to understand what we're giving out to the universe. What are people perceiving? Sometimes you're not going to know, but it's just safety steps that you have, especially when you're moving out and about. You don't also want to be withdrew, like totally withdrew, like just not talking at all. Sometimes people who are aggressors, or men that have aggressive nature, they can tend sometimes to focus on a sister who does not talk a lot. They could perceive that as someone who is isolated from family members, isolated from help. And we have to understand is that men who are abusers and attackers, or people that just into the psychology of being an attacker, they look for easy prey, or what they think is easy prey. And certain behaviors is what gives them a signal for them to step forth in their move. So with that being said, there's a certain balance of being social, you know, and with being social with boundaries is, you know, having a friendly but direct energy that's being communicated to men. So when you're meeting men that you don't know, it could be a social gathering, or any place, there's a certain, like I say, friendly but direct. Friendly, like you're showing your humanness, but direct is to give off that energy that I don't just go for the BS, you know, and that's necessary to put that out into the universe sometimes, depending on, and sometimes it might not be necessary, but there's nothing wrong with asserting that to the universe. It's because sometimes you can never be too sure when you're dealing out here. So being social with boundaries is about being friendly but direct. Making sure eye contact is maintained when you talk to men. Some sisters deal with intimidation issues with men. Some sisters don't. But depending on who the man is, it could be a man that's very big. He could be very muscular. Or he could just have this look in his eyes that just don't sit well with you. There could be a lot of things about the energy from a man or energy from a person that make you feel uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, you have to start to work to not show that you're uncomfortable. You have to work to show that you're not disturbed. You have to look confident. So even if on the inside you're not confident and you're worried and you're concerned, your fear is under control. Thank you, Mansell. Your fear is under control, but you're able to think. You're able to strategize because you can find yourself in predicaments and situations, whereas your logic, to the best that you can upkeep it, will get you through, or can get you through. But we want to make sure we look at men in the eyes, you know, and we don't want to be extra. Whereas you don't want to come off like, yeah, I'm keeping myself tough because I've been training myself this way. They don't need to feel like you're being extra. They just need to be able to feel it like, sir or sister, you know. And there's a lot of things that you can do as far as in terms of deception. If you're a single sister, you know, you don't have support by men, don't advertise that to the public. Don't put it out on Facebook that you're single. You know, sometimes just be careful about what you put out into the universe. You know, everybody don't need to know that you're single or you don't have protection from your father and brothers. Paint the perception that you do have protection, because that could possibly ring in the mind of somebody who is watching you. Be mindful of that, especially when you're on social media. And I've learned by me being a speaker, a lot of my videos that I talk on, I mean, they don't really go over a few hundred views, but it's been enough for people to identify me at different locations. I'm at gatherings and things like that, and people can point me out the crowd because of what I post on social media. And so for sisters who might be posting certain things, your pictures, you're talking about where you're going, where you're going to be at, be mindful that you could have somebody that's in the background who's watching you and who you do not know is watching you, because everybody do not have their pictures up on Facebook. You have some people that are masquerading as someone else on Facebook. So you need to keep all of this stuff in mind of when you go out. And there needs to be deception involved in how you move. There's nothing wrong with you being single, but if people know that you're single, make it seem like you have a family to protect you. If you need to be able to vent, to go to get help about it, people that you can trust, you can let them know that I don't really have protection and, I don't have this and that, but don't advertise that to the public, that you're just this helpless individual without protection, because the wrong person can use all of that to their advantage. And a lot of times what sisters go through sometimes in relationships with men is because they knew coming in the picture they had nobody they had to look out for. And that's how a lot of abuse starts with women, is when a man sees that he can move you away. If you had some type of relationship with your father, but he sees about the people who you're closest to, how to move you farther away from them, because the farther away he can get you from them, he can keep them out of y'all business. And so men have had a tendency to be able to move like that, get you away from your family, and then have you to be able to revolve around him. And then, the beatings start coming and the rape might start coming and things like that. And I'm talking about men that can become your boyfriend up until the point of being your husband. This is typical behavior of when men come into the picture knowing you don't really have anybody to fend for you. That's what it looks like. So you want to be able to think about being more deceptive of when you're engaging men. If you don't really have support, he needs to think you have support, and you should wait until you really get to know him to determine, will you really let him know that you've been holding this up all along, because you don't know who this guy is, and if you got to cut him off, you don't like a few things, and he left the picture thinking that you had protection, then fine, because the end goal is to make sure that you are secure and that you're protected, and your children, if you have children. That's the end goal. So, and that's why deception is used as a means of manipulating your environment and your engagement with certain people for your survival. Not to walk around and be a liar and things like that. It's a strategy of art of war. It's a war tactic. So, if you have children, you should have basic commands of what children are to do during certain encounters. So if you're somebody that walks down the street, a group of guys walk up on y'all, and you're not, and when you don't feel right, you just don't feel right, what do you tell your son? What do your son know how to do? Is your son disciplined? Whereas though if y'all wasn't holding hands already, say, give me your hand. And he's listening and he tunes right in because you're teaching him how to be vigilant. One thing I'm very heavy on is my children being vigilant. And we usually, with our vehicle, we play a game. Whereas when we're in the van, we'll tell like our daughters, she's 4 now, we'll tell our daughter, like, count how many red cars you see. And she starts to count the cars as we drive. And for her, it's really a game that she gets to anticipate seeing a red car to count it, when in actuality, I'm making her actually pay attention to all of the cars that's passing by her. But at her young age, she's being taught how to identify. And we started that game at 2 years old. And so even if you have to catch the bus and you're not in the car, think of games that you can play with your son or with your daughter or with your children that increases their vigilance. So, like, come off the top of the head, let's say certain cities, there's paintings on the wall. If you're walking and you got a nice little walk, how many paintings do you see? Or tell me when you see the color yellow. Tell me if you see somebody that's wearing red pants, or play certain games with them, because even though it's a game for them, it's actually building their memory. It's making them look around, and you want them to have that art of being able to look around. So sometimes when you see things, your child is seeing the same thing, and sometimes you don't even have to always call them to come because they're already doing it. It's because they've been taught to look around as far as what's going on. So your child needs to have commands about what to do during possible dangerous situations. Your child needs to know what to do. It needs to be rehearsed. You can play with it. You can do scenarios in the home. You're doing this for survival. So that's something that, to remember. Hold on for a second. I need to take a sip of my tea. Ooh, still hot. As I said, I'm an advocate of women learning self-defense, also with weapons. I think that is something that is very needed and necessary, because you train for the time that you might need it. You never know when you will need it. So that's why there's a concentration on engaging the process to be able to learn how to defend yourself, your children, with your hands or with weapons if need be. There are things that you can purchase. Some women I know, they don't want to purchase firearms. I understand it. So, but there are many different type of weapons. You can get a knife, but there's also a lot of little nifty type of weapons that come to gun shows. There's gun shows. Sometimes you can stay tuned about gun shows coming in your city, and sometimes you actually have stores that sell weapons, knives, swords. And it's not for you to go get a big sword or anything, but to look for certain little weapons that you can have in your pocket. Simple little things that you can be able to have right in your pocket while you're walking. But when you go to gun shows, you can have combs, and you can unscrew. I mean, you only had to unscrew. You could pull off. You take the head part of the comb off. It's a shank. This is important, because you might need to use that. So, thank you, Patricia, for sharing the video. You might need that comb. There's a thing that I got for my wife before, a keychain. You put your fingers in a hole. It has two pointy pieces that hang out from it. And it's to our keychain. And so all she had to do was put her finger in there. You get too close, if she feels threatened, then that's something that, and it's going to cut through your flesh, it's going to cut through the flesh. But it's good to go to gun shows to check out certain little nifty items that you can be able to carry in your purse. And some of the stuff is not even metal. The poker is made out of, rubber and plastic, but it will cut through your flesh. I didn't test it like hard as it can go, but I tested it to my rib cage to feel pressure, and you poke hard enough, a person is going to be very, very hurt, and whatever they thought they was going to do, they're not going to be able to do because of the pain. And that's the mindset that you want to be able to be in, is that you want to be able to inflict pain when you need to, because you don't know if your life is on the line. You don't know that, and you don't have time to wait around and see. But you control your fear, so you're able to thoroughly assess that the move you're going to make is warranted. You want to make sure that you don't want to overreact if you don't necessarily have to. But if you feel like you're threatened, then sister, by all means, you have to do what you have to do. And I would not be against you doing whatever you have to do, because there's many times of sisters being killed Not long ago, there was a sister that was killed in Chicago by a brother on a train, killed in front of people, and she bled out and died on a train. There are other scenarios we can bring up about sisters who have just been murdered, and you can't stop all things from happening. You cannot control evil people, and when an evil person places their eyes and their mind on you, you can't control that. What you can control is that you are going to have a controlled level of fear. And what I mean by controlled level, whereas your fear is not consuming you. When you have to protect you and yours, you going into your bag. If you know self-defense, then that's even wonderful. But if you don't know self-defense, you got yourself a little knife on you. And remember, you want to have something like, especially it's wintertime, you got a coat where you can just dig in your pocket. When you walk the streets, your hand's already on it. And you can be nice and polite and talking to people, but as soon as something seems like it's getting ready to get crazy, you come out your hand. You come right out your pocket. And you go in. You go in. Nope, don't close your eye. I mean, if that's what happened, that's cool. But practice all of this stuff. Practice at home. If you're the type of sister who's naturally shy, that's naturally timid, you don't carry a lot of fire outright with you, practice in the mirror. There's nothing wrong with practicing, working on, looking at men in the eyes. If you do know some men that you can train with a little bit, then do it. Then do it. But do whatever you have to do. Because the reason why this is important is because we live in a rape culture. And this rape culture desensitizes men to women in all shapes and forms. And that is a sad reality. And there's not enough men who are going to protect you while you're on a bus stop or, in a car or whatever the situation is. Not enough men that's going to stand up for you and lay their lives down if necessary. So dealing with this as what it is, which is a war, you make sure that you're prepared, that you're still able to do what you need to do. Because sister, I have faith in you that you're going to survive and that you're going to be successful. So with that said, remember the first rule is controlling fear. Controlling fear. That's not something. If fear has a way of controlling you, that's not something you're just going to get rid of overnight. Don't be mad at that. Learn to be at peace with your fears. But go into the spiritual realm, and if you don't know how to do that, find something that allows you to go into your spirit. Find something. I can't dictate what that should be, so I won't. But whatever allows you to tap into your inner spirit, that allows you to have a space and a place within yourself to be able to talk, to be able to reason, to gauge how you feel, what's going on around you, a place that you can be able to shed and be vulnerable. Do all of that, because this is necessary with understanding your fears, because sometimes we have fears of certain things and we don't realize it. So you want to be able to realize certain fears, especially when it comes to your survival and your safety. So always remember that controlling your fear will allow you to think logically. If you don't carry around a weapon, carry around one. I don't care if you're married and you have one of the toughest men walking around. He can't protect you at all times. Carry something. Carry something, because you never know. You have mace, pepper spray. You can get that from Sporting Goods Company. You can get it from Amazon. I mean, keep it simple. A lot of this stuff. I mean, say for instance, you live in because you could live anywhere receiving this information. Amazon. Look at weapons for women on Amazon that you can be able to get shipped to your home, or eBay. I don't care. Find ways to be able to protect yourself. Mace, pepper spray. These are good stuff. You can have it on your keys. You can have it in your pocket. So, when you don't feel right about something, you can have your hand on it while you're walking up on it. So just in case you might make a quick move, you're able to hit them off with a little bit of something. And pepper spray, for those that do not know, I have been pepper sprayed horribly before. It is a horrible thing. I don't care about how strong somebody is or whatever. Whatever they thought they was going to do, they was not going to do. Because once you start inhaling pepper spray, I mean, it just mess you all up. And if you got to spray that pepper spray or mace, it's good enough. But you know, you got an attacker on you, you know, spray it. Let it spray. You know what I'm saying? Let it spray. Don't be thinking about, oh, I hope I didn't hurt him too bad. Who cares? He shouldn't have did what he did. Or he shouldn't have came off the way he came off to make you do it. So, you know what I mean? Be deep within your resolve to protect yourself and to protect your children. I think I've said as much as I could say at the moment about this topic. I hope somebody got something out of this. A sister, please share this video. Tag somebody in it who you might think can get something from this. But by all means, sisters, please please protect yourself. Lastly, I have my Facebook page, I Am Poet Deep. I am an artist, and an extension of my platform is helping to provide practical solutions as an artist, but also as a black man, father, husband, community servant, and all that other good stuff. So, but please, you know, I do great music. You go to my Facebook page, click the link, like my page, please. Check it out. You know, I do have some uplifting music for women. I have a song called Inner Wealth. I think you will really love it. Got a lot of great stuff going on that I'll be keeping you informed. So until my website is back up and running, please go to the website, check out some videos. I have a lot of other topics that I expound upon there through music or whether through live videos and things like that. So please share and tag. You know, don't just look at the video and keep moving on. I do need your support and your assistance. So in exchange for, you know, my thoughts, can I get a like? You know what I mean? So have a great day. Remember, protect yourself, preserve yourself, control your fear, you know, and let the spirit do the rest. Have a good night. Peace.